You got it now?
We are recording.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, awesome. All right, guys.
If they only knew, this is going to be the
Right.
best audio recording ever.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, we're on, right?
You're on.
Okay, all right, guys. So again, this is Belinda one more time. I am here celebrating. We're talking about mental health awareness this week, and today I have Mike Mullally with me, someone who I've worked with for a while and who I've known for a while, and we've worked together, and he's a friend of mine. So it's awesome to have him here, and so we're gonna get right to it. So Mike, share with us just a little bit about who you are, so the audience can get to know you.
Okay, my name is Mike Mullally. I live in Massachusetts. I am an operating room nurse. I've worked with Belinda in the past. I've been married for over 20 years. I have 3 teenage children, 1 in college, 2 in high school. I am also a veteran from the United States Army. I served 21 years in the Army with 2 combat tours to Iraq for a total of 22 months. And like we're going to talk about today, I use fitness as a coping mechanism for PTSD. And I look forward to sharing my story with you today.
Awesome. And for the record, I can't believe that you have 2 kids in college, because I remember when they were
one in college, 2 in high school. No.
Oh, 2 in high school, 1 in college. I'm just like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Man. Anyway, so let's get to it.
Blank.
So exactly. So like you said, you suffered from PTSD. So tell us a little bit about that.
All right. So my first deployment was in 2007.
Okay.
And I was May 2007, I left, and I didn't get home till June 2008. In that time frame, I belonged to a forward surgical team when I was in the Army, and our job as a forward surgical team was we traveled with the infantry. And my first tour, I was with the 3rd ID, 3rd Infantry Division, and we were in Al-Quds, Iraq, and we treated over 170 surgical patients. Majority of them were burn patients. People who were shot, people who were mutilated by explosions, amputees, and then we had your typical elective surgery like appendectomies and stuff that happens in life. There was a couple of guys who got hurt working on the base just from mechanical devices and stuff like that. So when we were established at our location, my sleep quarters was kind of close to the trauma bay. And unfortunately, we had a lot of patients who were children, children that were burned, children that were unfortunately shot or in explosions. And my alarm clock some days was the sound of kids crying. And over time, unfortunately, I got used to it, as well as I got used to seeing people who were burned beyond recognition,
Wow.
Missing limbs, just stuff that you normally don't see in the United States. Again, we were there for 13 months, and I didn't really think I had an issue because normalcy changed. So normal living of getting shot at, getting rocketed, getting mortared, that was like part of the daily life routine. The time frame from the combat zone to my driveway was less than 10 days. So there was really not a lot of time to decompress. And I can remember when we were leaving the base, we left in the middle of the night. We were still getting shot at in helicopters. And we're like, guys, just let me go home. I just remember saying that, let me go home. And, like I said, when I got home, I didn't think I had any problems. I didn't think I had any issues. But my wife kind of picked it up right away. And I made a promise to her that I would get checked out just in case. So I made an appointment with the VA, and I went to my first appointment, and I sat down and I was talking to the gentleman. Now, again, I wasn't the one who was kicking in doors. I wasn't firing my weapon at the combatants. We did treat enemy combatants in the operating room, but I didn't have any cause of their injury. Let's put it that way. So I didn't think I qualified myself to have PTSD because I was just doing my job. I was simply doing my job. So the gentleman immediately, he said, "You diagnosed me with PTSD." And I got angry. I got very angry with him in the office, and I slammed my hand on his desk. I stood up. I said, I'm getting out of here. And with a calm voice, he said to me, he says, why don't you just sit down for a minute and let's just talk some more. So that was completely out of character for me to have an angry outburst like that, especially with someone who was in a professional setting.
Right.
Also, when I deployed that first time, my children were young. And if you remember, I was talking about that sound in the morning of kids screaming in pain. So when my kids were younger, like anybody who has children, I know you have 4 children.
Yeah.
when they cry, when my kids were crying, it triggered something that I couldn't control. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't soothe them. If I couldn't, those sounds would come back, and that was something I struggled with, until my kids were old enough not to cry every single day, every single 5 minutes.
Right.
But that was part of my treatment, and like I said in the beginning of the call, while I was deployed, when I left for deployment, I was 250 pounds, and when I came home, I was at 175. So myself and a couple of the other soldiers, we started exercising, and we changed our diet, changed a lot of things, and we were exercising almost 3 times a day. Now, this became part of the normalcy. Little did I know that, when I came home, everyone was like, wow, you're in great shape. I was like, thanks, but it was hard to get that, I didn't have time to work out like I did when I was deployed. I had family, but also I wasn't getting the natural high from the exercise and fitness. I mean, we were running almost 10 miles a day. Wow. We were lifting weights. We were doing extra cardio. It was insane, the amount of physical activity and strenuous activity that we were putting on our bodies. So over time, I started to plateau when I came home with my fitness, and that became a problem too. So luckily, the winter months were coming, and and it's funny. I went back to work in the operating room, and 2 of the guys who I worked with were completely ripped. Like when I left, they weren't ripped. When I came back, they were absolutely ripped. And I said to them, I was like, dude, what did you guys do? And they were like, we did this thing called P90X. That was back in 2008. I didn't know what P90X was, and a girl I went to high school with was talking about P90X on Facebook. And I was like, oh my God. Then I looked it up. I'm like, I'm not working out at home. I was like into the gym. I was like into the gym. I was into running. But the winter months are coming. And we all know in New England, some of our winter months are unforgiving. And it's, yes. I don't know. I don't really like to do a lot of cold.
That's a very good way to say it.
Yeah.
Unforgiving.
Yeah, I don't like to do a lot of cold weather sports. So I ended up ordering this thing and immediately fell in love with the program because it was challenging and I was getting that physical fitness high. But then, I told, when I had that initial meeting at the VA, I was adamant that I did not want to use any medications for my treatment. I became proactive in my treatment, and luckily I got hooked up with a great therapist who 12 years later, I'm still seeing on a regular basis. In the beginning, it was weekly. Over time, we tried bi-weekly, and there was some times where it didn't work, so I had to go back to weekly. And again, tapered up, and now, 12 years later, I tried the group therapy. It just really didn't work for me. And I'm sure there's a lot of different things that you can do. Like, I knew medication wasn't going to work for me. Individual therapy works for me. Group therapy did not work for me. Not that I wasn't afraid to talk about my story, because I am very, very open with my story. And that's another thing too that I think has helped me over the years. There's a couple of things that have helped me. One, being able to share my story and get it off my chest and share my experiences. Two, I don't really hold anything back, and I've learned to accept that PTSD is something that is bigger than who I am, instead of trying to fight it. Because in the beginning, I wanted to fight it. I wanted to beat it. I wanted to eradicate it, whatever word you want to use. But over time, that frustration and struggle of not being able to beat this beast, I learned how to accept it and I learned how to cope with it. Yes, there are days where, especially anniversaries, that trigger certain situations for me. You know, there are days where I just don't want to get out of bed. I just lose that motivation and drive. So that's another reason why I dig down to try to find a reason to keep fighting that fight. You know, if I have an issue, I do have a support chain. There are some friends of mine who been through similar situations, and we've used each other over the years too. What I found working and talking with other veterans, ones who kind of internalize everything, eventually they can't internalize anymore, because that box, that glass is overfull and just breaks. Once they are able to open up and maybe share a little bit, you know, maybe not share great detail. Yes, it can get emotional. However, it's a release. It's like a release valve, pressure. You know, and over time it gets easier. So there's a couple, there's a treatment that I used that was, I guess, experimental at the time. Do you want me to talk about that now, Belinda, or you want to talk about it later?
Okay. Yeah, before you get into that one. So you had said something about like you didn't want to use medication. And it's funny that you said that, because for the past few people that I've spoken to have said the same thing. So I'm going to ask you, like, why did you not want to use I mean, I'm not trying to push for medication.
No, I did not want to. I don't know how to word this. So I have family history of veterans that used. Oh, I lost your audio.
Hear you.
Oh, there you go. I can hear you now.
There you go. Okay, there we go. Oh my goodness.
It's okay. We're getting through this.
Special. All right, go ahead one more time. So why did you want to use medications?
Well, it was good because I didn't have my answer yet. I'm still trying to come up with a good reason why. You know, there's certain stigmas, and I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to offend anybody, but I found that a lot of the medications were addicting, and a lot of the medications had certain side effects that I didn't want to just jump into the medications. I've had friends who are veterans who have had life-changing alterations in their mindset since using medications. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be that person. So, and I didn't want to deal with side effects. I'm a multivitamin kind of guy, you know. Okay. And every once in a while, I'll take 81 milligrams of aspirin. And if my back hurts, I'll take a little bit of Motrin or Aleve, and that's as far as I go with medications. Again, I know there are some people out there who desperately, you know, need sleep aids, you know, other aids that help them cope. Again, I don't want to disrespect them or belittle what they, you know, their reasons for using that, because there are medications out there that definitely help individuals. I just wanted to give it a whirl, and it's been, like I said, it's been 12 years, 13 years since boots on the ground, but you know, I've been doing okay just doing what I've been doing.
That's awesome. Now, you said something earlier and then the internet kind of like froze or whatever happened, but you had mentioned that you were trying to beat it. You were trying to eradicate it and all that stuff. And you said something right afterwards, and I kind of missed that. So can you say that one time? So instead of doing that, go ahead.
All right. So again, in the beginning, I wanted to beat PTSD. I wanted to win. And then it was a struggle because it was beating me, and it was beating me more. And then so what I did was I just learned to live with it, learn to cope with it. So learn my trigger mechanisms and learn what, you know, what sets certain things off, whether it's, you know, depression or anger or anxiety or something like that. I can see it coming and I can accept it and understand that it is part of who I am now. So am I going to let it sidetrack me the entire day? No, I'm going to try to redirect myself. So it's a lot of it is redirecting the way I feel. Maybe I need 20 minutes to go do a quick little workout to get my heart rate up, to release those natural chemicals in my brain that are mood stabilizers. So I'm a firm believer in that.
Okay. So now you had mentioned treatment. So what was the treatment that worked for you? So now we can go into that.
Okay, so I showed up. This was earlier in my therapy.
Right.
My therapist wanted me to. There was a certain situation that happened. Okay, she wanted me to find the ultimate situation that was kind of FUBAR, and if you know what that means, the biggest thing that I was struggling with the most.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it, and every time I talked about it, it was very emotional. So what she wanted me to do for 30 days, well, she wanted me to go home and she wanted me to take out a piece of paper and, without getting in great detail, describe the day of what happened, the events that led up to that day, the event, and what happened after that, without going in great detail. Okay, so I jotted it down on a piece of paper. And then my job was every morning, read what I wrote. Before I even got out of bed, read what I wrote. And before I went to bed at night, read what I wrote. In the beginning, it was difficult. It was extremely difficult because it's like I'm reliving this thing over and over every day for 30 days. So I go back the next month, or a couple weeks. I think I was weekly at the time. So 4 weeks later, what she wanted me to do was take out another piece of paper. Now this time, write into great detail every little thing you remember about the moment, the day, what led up to it, and what the events that happened afterwards. And then again, and this was she wanted me to be quite graphic and again, reading that every single morning to start my day, reading it before I went to bed. And I was like, this is horrible. This is like the worst thing ever. Like I'm really, I don't want to read this anymore, because every time I read it, it was like, it made me angry. It made me sad, and little did I know, I was desensitizing myself to the event. So I was, even though I was kind of reliving it, I was accepting it. And it was again, can't change it. Can't change the past. Can't change your history.
Right.
It was part of my history. And by eventually day 30, I was able to talk about it I was able to talk about it with her without losing, getting too emotional. And I didn't feel like it derailed me that day. Like, you're like, wow, I can actually talk about this event now. So that was something that worked. I tried it a couple other times with different situations, and it helped. I think it really, really helped, putting it down on paper. Again, I was so used to talking about it and not putting it from here to there on paper, and then rereading it and stuff. So it definitely helped.
That's awesome. And it's something so simple, right? It's just
totally simple.
Writing that experience down and just kind of like going through it. And I can imagine it being tough at first. Now, how, as a guy, right? Because then it's a known thing that guys don't want to share their, not known thing, but for most guys, right? It's stereotypical thing, I should say, that you guys don't like to share your emotions and talk about these type of things. Now, how hard was this?
Well, Belinda, also being a male nurse, I guess, is something programmed in me that I can talk about my emotions. It's difficult. It's difficult sometimes, but I found, all right, here we go. I found that sharing my story with a complete stranger was the easiest thing in the world. If you would have asked me to do this little interview today, say we were still working together. Yeah. And let's just say it was like late 2012. I'm sorry, 2008.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, I'm good. I'm good. But it's been so long. And again, it's part of that. It's part of my history. It's part of my history book, my lifetime. So again, knowing that I can't change the past, and it's part of that, hey, this is bigger than me. This is totally bigger than me. If there's any, and I can say this without feeling like someone would attack me for it. If there's anyone out there who's gone on a deployment, did some of the things I did, or did some of the things that, you know, an infantry, or, you know, if you're kicking indoors and you're going after the bad guys, there is not one person who can come back saying, I didn't bother me at all. They're full of it. They are totally full of it because it internalizes. It's there. You know, I know exactly what happened.
Right.
Is it all good? I mean, there was a lot of good things that happened, right. but the bad things, they're still there too. And you just kind of put them to the side. You know, you just kind of separate things and categorize stuff, you know, and again, talking about it makes it better.
Oh, wow. So now tell me, so when did you start really implementing like lifestyle changes in order to help you? Or when did you realize the connection between the two?
I would say November 2008. So I had been home for almost 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I knew in September 2008, I knew I was in trouble. The VA wasn't working alone. Again, I was plateauing in that fitness thing. And seriously, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but until I got my hands on the P90X program, if you don't know what P90X is, it's a 90-day program, extreme fitness.
It kicks your butt.
It kicks your butt. It's a good thing. I did 180 days in a row without ever missing a day. So I did literally 6 months of this program with a trainer who later on I considered him like just doing the videos, my friend, and he became my mentor. But then I got to meet him in real life, and then we became friends, and you know, that's a whole other chapter. But you know, I didn't start taking it serious until that November 2008 when I first pushed play on that first workout, and then challenged myself the next 180 days, and then it led into the next chapter of my life when I started sharing that experience with people, not just veterans, but just people, the power of fitness. When I started coaching.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. So, how about eating? How did you implement that? Because I know fitness is one thing, like exercise is one thing. Eating is another one.
Well, if you want the results come in the kitchen. You know, the fitness part, again, I talked about the natural chemicals in your brain. That is what fitness gave to me. It gave me that natural, that dopamine, that norepinephrine. You know, it released, and it gives your body like this natural high, which feels good. And that's that feeling you get from fitness. I mean, a lot of people go out to work out for the first time and they're sore. Yes, that's part of it too. That goes away with time once you learn how to exercise. I mean, and exercise isn't just like, hey, I'm gonna go out and exercise. It's a learned process. I mean, you got to know what weights work best for you. And it's not about, you know, putting the most weight on as possible. It's just about finding out what works best for you. But the nutrition piece is, if you want the results come in the kitchen. Like I said, well, during the deployment, we got a brand new chef, and he called his food the Heart Healthy. Excuse me. So I said, okay. I mean, again, I thought it was all exercise, it was all the results. But once I changed my nutrition, you know, I don't even use the word diet. I like to use the word nutrition. Once I started nutrition, okay, that's not even a word. Working my nutrition, I was going to say nutritioning, but instead of dieting, that really put a spin on it. Now, I don't think this just goes for anybody who has PTSD, but people who deal with constipation, you're going to be miserable. People who are constipated are miserable people. So I think a balanced diet, balanced nutrition with the fiber and water, that's a mood stabilizer too. So there's soldiers, there was veterans out there who used alcohol or drugs or food as a coping mechanism. You know, everyone's like, oh, you got fitness. And I was like, yeah, it's great until you plateau. But, you know, it's, again, finding that balance. Everything's a balance. And it does come with what you fuel your body with too.
Absolutely. So now are there any days now, I know it's been like almost 13 years or so. Do you still struggle with a little bit of the depression at all? And
mainly on anniversaries. So
I see.
so I had two tours, two completely different tours. And my second tour didn't help the situation at all. I thought I'd be fine because I knew what I was getting into, but it was two different wars. Same country, two different wars. The rules had changed too, and it was less than 3 years. So I was back there in less than 3 years. But what was the original question again? I lost one.
I was asking if you still struggle with
any
of the set on your anniversaries.
Anniversaries are a big one. The month of March, a lot of stuff happened in the month of March that wasn't positive. So I struggle in March. There's days in March where, and it's funny too, because there'll be days where either my wife will notice or I notice I'm off. And I'll come straight out and say, I just want to let you know, I am off. And usually if I go back, it's something, oh, I lost your audio. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Oh, can you hear me now?
There you go. Yeah. Okay,
right.
So you're saying March.
Okay, so March is a month that statistically is difficult. So a lot of negative things happen in that month. Excuse me. But if there's days where I might just be off and I'll know I'm off. You know, sometimes I'll just go do a workout and to help it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you really, can you attribute your fitness lifestyle and a whole change, in addition to therapy, to your well-being?
100%. 100%.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, what would you say to that one person right now who is struggling with PTSD? Now, maybe they're not a veteran, or maybe they are. Maybe they had some other trauma in their life and they're experiencing that right now. So, and they're struggling right now. So what would you say to them?
Get help, reach out and talk to someone who is professional, who can help you, and it'll make all the difference in the world. I'm sure it will feel very scary. That fear of the unknown, the fear of opening up to someone, but you will feel so much better for doing so. It's going to take time, just like anything in the world. There's no instant gratification. It's going to take time and consistency, but you have to be your own advocate and you have to let it go. You have to release it.
Now, what would you say to a man right now who is who's been struggling with this and who has never sought any help, and who maybe have been in denial? You know, he's a husband, he's a father. What would you say to that guy?
I would say basically the same thing I would say to anybody: go get help. Okay. I would say this beast is much bigger than us. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. It's trapped. It's in your brains. It's internal. And there's ways that you can learn to live with it and still function. It's not a negative to seek help. It's not, you're not less of a man. You know, if anything, you're stronger. Especially if you have a family, you got to do it for your family. Because eventually it will beat you.
That is so good. That is so good. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anything else that you'd like to share before we conclude?
No, it was funny that just being able to talk to you, and a lot of things we talked about today, I haven't talked about in a long time. So I just want to say thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my story and just kind of get some things off my chest. I haven't gotten off my chest in a while. So this whole pandemic thing is not helping the situation because, you know, everything's Zoom. So, but this is great, Belinda. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Oh, and one last thing, where can we find you? If someone wants to follow you, you hear your story, or just maybe connect with you in terms of the fitness thing, how can they reach you?
All right, so I'm all over the place. I'm everywhere. So my symbol is @Mullally Fitness, and that's MULLALY Fitness. Big platform I'm using is Instagram. Okay. My next big platform I've been using is TikTok. And
really?
I love TikTok. I'm viral on TikTok. I'm like
Have you been dancing?
No dancing.
Okay.
No dancing. I got one dance video. It's not good. I do have a lot of information about PTSD in my story on my YouTube channel. Again, it's
Okay.
Mullally Fitness, and Facebook, of course. I have a lot of fitness and nutrition tips that I use there. That, again, not all the time, but I do throw in the whole PTSD awareness and PTSD coping mechanisms as well. So yeah, I'm all over the social media. I do have a Snapchat, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing there, or Twitter. I don't really understand that one either. But I'm there too. They can reach out. I answer all my messages. All right.
We'll definitely put that in the notes so that if anyone wants to reach out to you, that they definitely can. But thanks again, Mike. And to those who are listening, I do hope that you are, this is going to be the last session, the last interview for this week. And I hope that this has encouraged you to seek the help that you need, because like I said before, we are all here for a purpose, and we need you. You know what I mean? And so you matter. You need to be your best self in order for you to fulfill the purpose that you have in this life. So for those if you're listening, please seek the help. Talk to those who've gone through it. I don't know what else to say, but just please try not to stay in that state, because it's not helpful. So again, thank you, Mike, for joining, and thank you for serving our country. And that's it. So we'll log off. So until next time, comment and let me know what you think about the interview. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Melinda.